Hello, I'm Ender. Welcome to the Haters Guide for the Pcmt playoffs.
And that hurt, you know?
Guide. We're going to be starting off with some eliminated teams. Teams that didn't perform well, didn't meet the expectations, didn't quite hit their mark, leave an impact on the scene. But their lowlights were definitely ones we want to look back on. The first team we're going to start off with is EP. Team Entropy. EP. Just a roster that puts you to sleep, you know. Nothing going on. They won 3 maps before their last game, which was for the bottom. They were not good. They barely got even above 10 rounds half the time where they were playing. Just looked like an science experiment gone wrong. Like, they had good players in Apple, Solar Core, and Blitz, but it seemed like it was the calling from day one. They never looked like they were on the same page. They constantly were making very, very big mistakes. And then when, the end of the season where they start to look good, it just didn't matter. These players are probably better on different teams where they can be better highlighted, but at the same time, that just feels like it's an excuse to say their bad season is put up to it. Robo Hobo looked good. I like the fact that, a low-ranked player was putting up those numbers for what he wanted to be, but yeah, man, just fuck this potential S team. Eliminated. Dementia found me. What a team. Their top player only played 8 maps. And honestly, the rest of the team was all below 1.0 ratings. Like, what a disappointing roster for what they were trying to do. They won 5 maps and had 3 more maps where they got above 10 rounds out of a total of 16. You're telling me 8 maps you get, close to winning? Gunskill is clearly the issue here. Their top-ranked player is an elite support player. But not having an elite or even average duelist is just not going to work out for this team. This team suffers from having the wrong players on the wrong team in the wrong situation with the wrong calling. Longclaw was the most requested player, and Nick, when playing, is a bright light and played quite well. But at the same time, that just feels like cope. It's just to save them from the scrutiny for what it is. I don't know, man. Enjoy Cancun. Enjoy your offseason. But get the fuck out. Eliminated. Baka. Being rated S tier. The second team in Omega to be rated S tier. Just not a good look from even the beginning of the season. They won 7 maps, winning 3 games. And just didn't look great. They should have been better. They beat SRP and SPG. But you're telling me that after all that, you couldn't beat 100 Tonys or DFM? That is not a good sign for how this team has functioned. Asher, big point out here, has played every single role. They couldn't pick something, couldn't decide on it. Role issues were constantly an issue amongst this team. Devil was overrated, and Knight was just kind of throwing at the start. First 3 games, he basically had no impact. Lucas was the only highlight of this team, getting 8th in stats, but who cares when your team is not even going to make playoffs? Man just needs to play the duelist. He's trying to play every role, and it was just not working. At the end of the day, this team is just disappointing and should have been better. Enjoy watching playoffs from the sideline. Eliminated. 100 Tonys. I don't even know where to start with this team. They were just average. They were scrimming a bunch. It just wasn't really enough to say them. They beat every team below them and lost every team above them. Just average. Which is weird considering every other team usually had an upset or some sort of, loss that they shouldn't have had. But 100 Tonys just played the way they were supposed to. Which, they weren't rated super highly. No one was talking about them off the start. No one was talking about them at the end. This team is not memorable. No player was putting up stats that were crazy. Abstract was solid, but yet again, just average. It's the big issue with the Hunter Tonys. It's just average. So no highs, no lows, but enjoy the offseason. Maybe next season we see more from these players. Eliminated. Switching over to Alpha for the eliminated teams, we're going to talk about possibly the worst team, FNC. And I'm going to put in as much effort as they did this season. All jokes aside, they were dog shit. Somehow they took a map off of all the playoffs teams for Alpha, but against IHOP, they looked like they got kneecapped going into that game. Chiefs did well, but Nevus and Lee were just so inconsistent, having very mediocre highs and super low lows. No support and deafening quiet of wins for this team. It's why I'm giving the Brando the worst team of the tournament. You guys were so disappointing. The only way is up, but damn. There still has to be a punishment. No more Cancun for you guys. You'll be banished to the UK to enjoy those gray-filled skies. Eliminated. IHOP. What a weird team. The I Hate Odin party. Get it together, guys. Celebrate. Woo! Except there ain't no party. If you look at their record, they're 1-6. They look like they'd be just a little bit better than FNC, but they were a lot more competitive. But at the end of the day, they were super dysfunctional. They were not playing together. They were super scrappy, but scrappy just didn't win them games. Ethan was playing super well at the end there, just putting up awesome numbers you would like to see in playoffs, but Pavel and Eve are disappointing. Not being able to pop off at the same time, like the three of them together, could have been great, but not one popped off. The other two would just play poorly. Didn't work out. Platinum being their main work caller worked out on pre-rounds, but mid-rounds, in a good amount of the time after planting Spike, it looked like they just would lose their brains. Playing some weird plays, pushing out too far, or just not even taking any space at all. Their rounds of their game seemed to be decided in the space of 20 seconds. Whether or not they got a bunch of kills off the start, or if Pavel died mid. All this to say, they suck. Point blank. Cancun will be nice for them because they'll get to watch these matches and see some organized play, and that might actually bring up their skill level. But at this point, just hit the books. Eliminated. When talking about RQ, we should take important context into the situation. Now, the context, you may ask, is that for some reason after their second game, they played completely differently. I don't know if it's Twan's calling or Angus actually being there for more of the matches. With wins coming against IHOP and FNC, which they looked okay in, but not really. It looked like the other teams just wanted to lose those games more than RQ wanted to win them. And that's why, in my opinion, they're the most disappointing team in the tournament. Whether that is because Twan was supposed to be an elite IGL or Angus was supposed to be their hard carry, they never really got the rest of the team behind them. And at the end of the day, it's a team game. And whose fault, you may ask? Is it? I don't really know. Whether Twan can get the rest of the team behind his IGLing style or Angus can actually get the team behind him or the rest of the team just not listening. I don't really know. And that's not going to be for us to know. But at the end of the day, looking for the outside, it's disappointing. The players for RQ next season need to show out. They need to prove that this was just some bad showing with some bad mix of players. And next season, with a better team, they're going to be a lot better. But enjoy Cancun. May the sun shine bright and the drinks plentiful. Eliminated. Fuck! I wanted this roster to do so well. With a mix of Colt, Darshawn, and Alex. Come back from Season 2 to prove everyone else wrong. And they were all in the top 20. And they didn't make playoffs. They were just not clutch this season. And it is not in the sense of 1v2s or 2v4s. But rounds in the sense that they needed to win. They just looked dysfunctional. I don't know who their IGL is, but the pre-rounding looked like it just didn't exist. Like on attack, they look like they're vibes based, and on defense, they kind of just look like they just were all had these own individual ideas. I wanted more from this team, but the lights were just so much brighter for them than they could handle. Cardamom looked like the best silver player in PCMT, and if they're back in Season 4, I'm excited to see what team they're on. Lameless, I know you were on a team of 3 gunners, but I needed a little bit more out of you with your gun. Hit the range, and all will be forgiven. For you guys, I'm going to assign you the IHOP treatment and enjoy Cancun by watching the games and taking it in how you should have been playing all along. Eliminated. Now, moving on to the teams that have qualified into playoffs, we're going to talk about the 4 seed of Omega, Na'Vi. A crazy team, considering the fact they're missing their highest ranked player at the beginning of the season. They gained Lazy, who's now leaving for college, and Kenny S will be taking his spot. But with that, the team's changing just before playoffs. Not ideal. And they ain't even playing with the roster comp before then because Sting's been taken off to China. Now, I do believe Linus and Cassie will figure out these problems, but they're starting lower bracket. 1 loss and they're out. Playoffs are the proving ground, and they kind of need to put it together. And I'm kind of scared what that means. It could just mean they go out right away. Now, they are a kind of frustrating roster to watch. They either 2-0 or get 0-2'd. And for playoffs, where that map 1 can decide a lot, it's going to decide a lot for them. Things are going to be rough. But on a lighter note, they did make playoffs, so good luck. They're through! Team Slug Show. What a interesting roster. Avi has looked like the best player in the tournament. Straight has been the great second shooter for this team, keeping them alive when Avi can't. The background cast is also performing very well. Dino Lore holding it down. And the GOAT Paul having just some electric rounds last game. But I have said all these nice things. But this team has some pretty major downsides. The first being, this is 2 teams. The first played 2 games in 3 months. The second is the other 5 games. Both look like the same team, but they played harder teams in the second half and won 2 out of 5. See, the expectations are high. For they need to win this first series to prove the doubters wrong. With the individuals looking strong, but they also have cracks. Avi completely disappeared map 1 of the last game they played and still wasn't playing well in the full series. Straight is solid, but also could disappear, which can lead to game losses if they both happen on the same day. There are chinks in their armor, but huge upsides if they can just put it all together. I see playoff upsets with this team. Welcome to playoffs, TS. They're through! SPG, the Gangster 5, scrimming their way to the top of Omega. Almost. Thighs leading his team to the promised land with Coolio putting what the fuck performances together and Fuzzy being the most bang for your buck player. Torpedo just being solid and Duncan being the very solid anchor having the lowest stats at 0.96, which is the highest low player of any team, which is crazy. Crazy high ceiling for this team and pretty low floor on the right day. For the most part, don't play down to their opponents besides Baca, and that's what I mean by the right day. Just caught them at a bad time. Thighs can kind of just disappear mid-series. Now, the rest of the team is good enough to keep the engine moving, but they meet a stronger team in playoffs. Things will get dicey. SPG need to focus on that not happening, whether it's mental or vibes that needs to be fixed going forward. They have the power of friendship on their side. Welcome to the promised land. They're through! SRB. It's everywhere! SRB topping the group and looking like a real danger. Iz and JP Duo are going hard in the streets of Ascent. Their members are decent, no one above a 1 rating, but they play more support anyways. The floor is very low with this team, dedicating all their efforts to Iz and JP running it down. If they disappear mid-series, they have a real chance of losing. But the ceiling is incredibly high, untouched by other teams. Unfortunately, their map pool is very untested. 6 maps played of Ascent and banned Haven every time except 1 and lost it. Outside of that, the maps they play are like 1 or 2 maybe. So don't bring them to Ascent. You have a better chance than most who have played them every single time on Ascent. Like, seriously, why are we playing them on Ascent 6 times? They should be banning it. They've won it every single time. Like, that's why are we not banning it, guys? Guys, ban it! But the playoff goal is the rest of the team to perform better so they can be helping out Iz and JP. The run-it-down mentality might die, but until then, don't let those expectations drag you down, guys. Welcome to playoffs. Enjoy the first round bye. They're through! Team Dyslexia. TL. Mixing up my words, making it hard to write this entire paragraph. Coming into this tournament, they're ranked C, which was the lowest tier that anyone got ranked. And conquer that expectation and making it to playoffs is the upside for this team. But everything after the first 2 matches is just kind of a mess. H has been at the top of his team, but has been struggling. Caleb is breaking out after having the slowest start to a season I've ever seen. Ender popped off at the start of the season, but has literally frauded out every other game since then. Slows plays Phoenix, its Tan was deported. They have been in limbo. Not having Tans has just made roles just switch week to week, it feels like. They're heading into form going into playoffs, and Tans will be back for it. But will this be enough to really put them across the line, or will Tans coming back actually just not help them? Either way, they have to figure a way to finish out games, especially them versus Z9, which was a banger game to look at, but made Team Dyslexia look like they couldn't finish a game. Especially going into the lower bracket of playoffs, they need to figure that out because they will have leads and they need to finish them. Either way, enjoy playoffs. Please don't fall off. They're through. FSG, Furry Squirrel Gaming, and I got squirrels in my pants. Weird team, most of them barely playing the game. Nolan's been hard carrying this team with Amara, Sky, and Corinna having pop-off moments, and Rudra holding it down. They look like quite the team. They play very passive, allowing their opponents to make mistakes and can really hammer them when they finally can see those mistakes through. Problem with that, Corinna and Sky have had their pop-off moments when they play super aggro, but Nolan and Amara play better while being more passive. They're in a divide who performs well when the playstyle changes. That can be amazing for them, but it can lead to the hard carries that don't work in the long run. Playoff bound and Maris buff still going strong for Nolan. There's a lot of expectations on this team about not cooling down. But right now, they're looking on top of their game, so I'm excited to see them in playoffs. Enjoy it, have fun with it, and most of all, do your best. They're through! T1, Team 1. With the most basic name out of the entire tournament, it really sets the expectation of this team. Super basic playstyles with no overcomplicated bullshit getting in the way of what this team has going on. This team was rated C tier, right beside Team Dyslexia, and are top 2 in their group, going 6-1. Which is get a question that those Bomb Babble guys, man. What were they thinking? Croc has been the truth this season while standing near the top of stats, and Pies Odin has been dangerous. Kayla Radical and Roro have been fantastic as a supporting cast. They do have some worrying downsides, though, if you wouldn't expect from any other team. Having these great performances will work out, but how much of it is sustainable to keep going? Croc is hard carrying, and that'll eventually run out of steam, but the question is when? And will Pie be able to help out enough for that not to happen? They need to land running in order to not have to make a lower bracket run. Playoffs will be the testing ground that they need to prove that they are the top of their game and that they should have been at the top instead of C9. Enjoy the stress and let diamonds be made. They're through. C9, the GOAT, has arrived. And this is my personal selection for the winner of playoffs. C9 is being hard carried by Claps, putting up numbers, and Art having takeover games. Igneous being pretty good at ante and really setting up their team for success, and Makai being a very solid third fragger, and K-Spar's clutching when you know you need him to. But they look very static. There's no depth to their attack or defense, with simple plans being made and never going deeper. Barely any faking, and the setup on defense just seems like it's a vibe. If you see it once, you'll see it every round. Their vibes are great, which makes them super hard to break and are still in any game, no matter how many rounds they are down. We got to see that versus the TL versus C9 game, which looked, they were completely out of it, but they kept just coming back into each game. But the downside is they get into a habit of being down a lot of rounds. And that's not good. They cannot do that going forward into this tournament. They need to continue putting at the stop. And C9 has a lot to prove, especially Claps, who needs to show that Season 2 was a one-off and he isn't a choker. C9 is at the top of their game right now. May the nepotism be strong. Enjoy playoffs. They're through.